Welcome to another episode of Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life. In this episode, we are exploring the concept of emotional regulation, the art of recognizing where we are on the spectrum between reactivity and creativity, and learning how to bring ourselves back into balance. We'll discuss the cues that signal when we are hyperactivated or disengaged, practical tools to regain presence, and why self-awareness is the foundation for authentic leadership and connection. Whether you are leading a team, navigating a tough conversation, or simply seeking more ease in your day, this episode is for you. Hello, everybody.
Good morning, Polly. Hope the day finds you well.
Yes, it is. Steve, I
Yes,
like your background. It's new.
well, it is new. It is new. I just thought I'd try something different today, and we'll see how that works. And welcome, and to our listeners. This is another episode of Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life, and I'm Steve.
And I'm Poli. Thank you all for being here with us to our conversations and questions. And we were having quite the conversation. And I will have Steve guide us through this conversation and let us know more about what he had in mind, which is something related to range of regulation. And I do believe you can bring us something powerful from it. So Steve, if you wanna take the
Yes,
lead.
yeah, I'd be happy to jump in. So Polly and I both attended another workshop in the exchange community we belong to. It's our Awakening Conscious Leadership Experience. And we were introduced to, at least probably the first time it was presented, was this concept that there's a range of regulation. Well, what does that mean? Well,
Exactly. What does that range of regulation? If
yeah,
I'm angry, I'm angry. If I'm happy, I'm happy. Here
yeah.
we go.
Well, you may recall, just to give some background, and we've covered this on other episodes, but just a quick tutorial, that when we show up to any event, gathering, or even when we're leading, when we perceive, real or perceive, that the demands being placed upon us by our boss, by the environment, by the problem at hand, exceed the resources we have available within us and around us, we get in a state of, we call it reactivity, which is a cycle of fight or flight, and we're feeling stress, self-doubt, uncertainty. So it's an uncomfortable position to be in, and we're in this reactive state. We're reacting to everything. The other side of that is when the resources that we perceive we have available exceed the demands that we feel are being placed upon us, there's more of a relaxation. It puts us into a creative state. So we're more innovative, more inspired, more creative. And we start this cycle within our group of giving and receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And up until this last session, I looked at it as just there's two ideas. You're either in fight or flight, or you're in giving and receiving. Well, what was introduced to us is there's really the fight or flight, the reactivity. There's two sides to the same coin. And we'll go through those. But before we do, so what are the two sides? Well, one is we're hyperactive. I mean, we're overreactive. We can't wait to jump in. We're in this, we are going to fight or we're going to run, sage. But the other side of that is withdrawal. So we can either jump in, fight or freeze, or fight or flight. Or the other side of that is when we just let all the emotions go out of us. And you see what I just did? I did that. That was not a prop. It just, when I started talking about them, that's what I did. My state changed, the head down, emotions go out. And we go into this, I'm just going to freeze and not participate. Or we also fawn. So what's fawning? I had to really get my arms around that, but it's basically we become the yes person. So whatever's being said, we don't show up as our authentic. Yes, Polly. Yes. Oh, that's a great idea, Polly. And in the back of her mind saying that's never going to work. So we don't. So those are the two sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can be hyperactive or we can do the other direction. So I thought We would go through Polly if this would be helpful. I thought I'd start, if you just want to make some bullet points, if you're taking notes, we're going for each of those three places we can be, we're going to go through what's going on in our mind or emotions in each of
Mm-hmm.
those three conditions. What are some of the cues that we might want to be aware of to kind of tell us,
Oh, that's
which,
nice.
which
Okay.
side are we on? And then what are the implications? And I thought it'd be best. Let's start with where we want to be. Let's start with that place of creativity, inspiration, innovation, when we're in the right state, and the resources that we know we can bring from within ourselves or within our team are absolutely going to exceed the demands. Does that sound like a good place to start, Polly?
That sounds a wonderful place. And how do we get that? Because otherwise it feels like I'm just Alice in Wonderland with the happy faces around.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but that is the great place to be. How do
Okay.
we get
What?
there? Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, in this balanced state, this middle range where we're really in balance, where the resources are equal to or greater than the demands, here's some of the things that happen in our minds, that what's going on with our mind and emotions. And thought I'd start by saying, well, what's our inner voice in that state? Well, the inner voice in that state is our self-talk is, I am safe. I have resources, and
Mm-hmm.
I can contribute, connect, and create. So that's our mindset when we're in that state. We're in a present moment awareness. I love this. We're in emotional flow. We're in flow.
Oh, yeah.
We're curious. We're empathetic. We're compassionate. We're patient, playful, confident, connected, and empowered. Those are our mindsets and our emotions that are happening there. So just think of those things. Some of the cues that were there is we're very relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Our breath is natural, or even perhaps just a slight bit deeper than we would normally breathe. So we're staying present with our breath. We'll talk more about these next two in a minute, but Polly and I have talked a lot about using the breath as a way to get
Yes.
back into that present state and regulate self-regulation. We're going to introduce another concept, the eyes. In that state, we have great eye contact and we're fully engaged.
And
The
Steve, I
eyes
love,
have it, if you will.
yeah, can we expand on that already a little bit more, or do you want to hold to?
Well, no, we can go into that. So the eyes, they're just falling. So you're in a meeting, and this is a way to. I'm going to offer this as this is what's happening, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to offer this at this time as this is a way for us to help get back into state, back into flow. Is where attention goes, energy flows. That's a Tony Robbins concept, where attention goes. So one of the ways, if you find yourself withdrawing from the conversation or wanting to get into, the fight or flight, let your eyes follow the conversation in the room. So in other
Mm-hmm.
words, instead of staring into space, if Polly's talking over here, my gaze is going to go, I'm going to lean in slightly, but I'm making a very focused effort that the eyes have it. EYES, not the eyes have it like a vote, but the eyes have it. So just one way to get in there besides your breathing is let your eyes go where the conversation is flowing and really get into that state of not only listening with your ears, but watching what's being said with that. So
Mm-hmm.
using your eyes as well as your breath is a great way. And I can give an example of that if you think it'd be helpful from my
Oh,
competitive
absolutely.
my competitive table tennis days in high school and college. Which was if I felt I just wasn't present at the table, wasn't playing my best, to get locked back into the zone, that little ball,
Mm-hmm.
I would never take my eyes off it. If I lost the point and they blew it by me, my eyes tracked that ball down. If it went under, wherever it went, I focused on that ball. I tried to never take my eyes off the ball. Keep your eye on the ball. Has a lot of
Exactly.
meaning in this context. But when I did that for several points and just really locked in on what's going on, I was able to see when they served. I was able to see what they were doing to the ball on the way over. It just helped me lock back in. Same way with the game of pool. If you're in the chair and the other person, hasn't missed a shot in 10 minutes, hasn't missed a ball in 10 minutes, you can withdraw or watch what they're doing. Run the
And
table
it's
in your
interesting.
head.
When you
Yeah,
were
go ahead.
saying this, it feels like you start looking just at the ball, where the ball is going, what is happening, but it feels as if you are amplifying your field of vision, because you are really bringing
Yeah.
your whole self into it. And that's when you capture details and what is going on, and you are changing your body posture on paying attention, and really amplifying.
Yeah, and our mind wants to move what we're aiming at. That's why in marksmanship, rifle shooting, aim small, miss small. You may have heard that before, but they're not just they're looking at which quadrant of the bullseye they want to hit,
Mm.
not just the target,
Not just not just
not
that,
just the
but
whole
where
target, and not
exactly it
just
is
not just
going.
the 8 ring, the 9 ring, the 10 ring. They are looking for either the dead center spot, or if there's wind, they might be picturing, okay, in this case, I'm going to be in the bottom right of that, but they're deadlocked in on a target. So
That's
the
amazing.
eyes
That's amazing.
have it. So
I
using
have
the
it.
eyes, yeah, yeah. And what else is going on there? Well, our face is relaxed. We're engaged. I like this one. Our emotions, we're aware of what's going on within us, but our emotions are being processed. They're not being
Mm,
fought with, um, suppressed, or we're not being overwhelmed. We're just aware of what we're aware of. That's
exactly. That's when you
another one of,
amplify. You were
yeah.
there. You were part of it. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that.
Well,
Explaining
you're
and
welcome.
expanding.
Yeah. So the eyes have it. Just to get back into flow, stand tall with your shoulders erect, your shoulders back, stand erect with your shoulders back, feet on the floor, catch your breathing, but really lock in, especially in a gathering, wherever that voice in the room is coming from, just lock in on it and try and get underneath the words they're saying. Pay attention to their facial expressions, their animation,
Mm-hmm.
what's not being said that you're picking up. And it's a great way to get back into the conversation. So that's where we're aiming for.
Okay.
But to be able to aim there, it's also important that we recognize when we're on either side of that reactivity spectrum. So let's talk about the hyperactivated um, state. And so what's going on? So we're like overreactive. This is our fight, our flight. We're either going to jump in, and by golly, they're going to hear our opinion, or I'm done. This is going nowhere.
Turn the
I'll have a,
tables,
I'll,
literally.
yeah, I'll have a meeting after the meeting, and I'll fix this. I'm not gonna put my neck on the line now. I'll just go talk to a few people after this, and I'll make every effort I can to sabotage this because it's going nowhere. Not very healthy behavior. Uh,
And I can see that happening in like
I,
out of work scenario, happening in life as well.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
oh yeah.
it's a good after action review question when you've made a major decision to get your team to check in. Are you fully supporting this idea? When we leave that, not only here today in this room, but when we leave this room, or be honest, are you going to do everything you can to sabotage this because you just don't buy
Mm-hmm.
in? So a little check in. But I got us off track there. So what's going on with this? Well, the inner voice, when we're hyperactivated, is I'm not safe and I need to act, jump in, have my point of view heard, or I need to escape right now. I'm just going to totally withdraw with this conversation. We have a sense of emergency. Uh, our thoughts are just going all over the place. We're a bit agitated. We've got frustration, defensiveness. We want to jump in, or if someone says something to it, we don't really listen to what it says, but we want to defend that. We feel we're being attacked when maybe it's just a fact that's being shared. So we have defensiveness going on. We're impatient. Um, we're tight. We're fidgeting. These are some of the cues. Hey, we're fidgeting a lot. Tension in our shoulders and our limbs. We might be leaning in, but we just might be in this just
Mm.
statue pose.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Mm.
Very good, Polly. Just locked up.
Yeah.
Just call that
Mm.
we're locked up.
It
And
it it sounds like when if you were watching a cartoon, it's like when the cartoon is changing colors into red, and it bubbles up to the, the
to
brain
the
and the
top,
hands,
yes.
and yes, and the hands are really clenching on the fist. ready to hit something.
Yeah, so we're tight. All of those things are going on. And here's the implications. Here's another thing to look for. It's hard for us to listen, learn, or connect. We're always listening to respond. We're preparing our monologue instead of
Mm.
being ready to engage in a dialogue and weave in and out of a conversation. I'm listening, but by golly, my monologue is getting prepared and critiqued, and I'm ready to fire that baby across the bow when
And I
reactivity.
would I would even
Go
say,
ahead.
are you really listening? Because then your mind is out of it's just your mind is in your mind.
You're in your head.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are
yeah.
absolutely in your own head and out of everybody else's. So that's the hyperactive stage. So if
Mm-hmm.
you think of the hyperactivated, the regulation, that's where the regulation part of this is called the range of regulation. So
Mm-hmm.
so when we're in that demand, we can be on this hyper side. So now this is really important, the deep breathing, the relax in your chair,
Mm-hmm.
stop the fidgeting, just get your hands where they can be centered, and just really need to bring down. If you think of that, we need to down regulate our emotions. We need to breathe. We need to actively listen. If we have conversations going on in our head, we've got to dismiss them and get really locked back in to that active listening state. Curiosity is a great word. Get back into a state of curiosity.
Yeah.
And the breath is very important here. Just even deeper breath, and just even if it takes you the next minute of the conversation, the self-awareness that, hey, I am right. Look at me. I'm leaning in. I'm not listening. I've got this monologue going into my head, or I'm having a discussion that's not taking place in the room. It's only taking place in my head. How do I get myself in a state where I have the courage and the presence to bring my authentic self and what's going on in my mind into the room in a positive manner? So
It's
that's
like
the
that
hyperactive side.
get out of that T-Rex brain that wants to eat everyone and everything and
Yeah.
center.
Yeah, Polly, I'm curious, when you may have found yourself on this upside of that, do you have a go-to technique, or what are you aware of? What might you do when you catch yourself? Oh, I'm really riled up, or I'm on the hyper side of this demands greater than resources. Is there anything that comes
First
to
thing
mind
for
that you
yeah,
you find yourself doing?
first thing for me is really acknowledge it that I am going into like getting really, really, really red on the face. I might be quiet, my face shows it all. Close my eyes and take a deep breath. If I need change a little bit of the physiology, take a step back, another deep breath, and then get back. And this happens in seconds
Yes. It happens in seconds if what?
if I am
I-
aware.
If you are aware, if you
If I
are
am aware,
aware,
yes.
and that's why this exploration, I'm hoping that maybe it'll be helpful for our audience to go back and maybe bullet point some of these ideas of what that looks like, sounds like, feels like. Just catching yourself and say, oh, I'm on the upside of this, so I need to do
Hmm.
some presencing practice to get out of that. I want to get in your face, or I just want to run away from this. Remember the inner voices. I'm not safe, and I need to either act now or escape.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the exploration there. But again, the new concept was there's two sides of the same coin. We can also be in a very reactive state, but we're just freezing. We're shutting down, or I'm done with this. Whatever they say, I'm going to yes person it. And I'll add to it. I don't agree with any of it, but I can score some points by just going along to get along. So again, we're not being our authentic self. So the term that was used for us is hypo-activated, but also think of it, above the line is hyper and below is that. So what's the inner voice in that below the line? It's I feel alone, helpless, invisible, or I don't even know how to start bringing my authentic self into this. So I'm done. I don't even, this is so beyond the pale, I don't even know where to start.
What the
So that,
heck am I doing here?
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
move out.
this is
Something
crazy.
like this. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other emotions, we're feeling a bit of hopelessness, Withdrawal, self-doubt. There's that self-doubt word again.
Mm.
We're disconnected with the group. We're withdrawn. Um,
Does it feel like
Grief,
as if you were
emptiness,
going
confusion. Yeah.
into a cocoon?
Yeah. We're in this self-doubt, almost maybe the best word here is this hopelessness state. Hey, this is hopeless. I'm either going to just not do anything or I'm going to go along to get along state. But I am not showing up as my authentic self because this is, I'm just
This
this.
is BS. They
Yeah,
won't even hear me.
yeah, yes, yeah,
They won't, yeah,
yeah,
why am I here? What am I going to say? No.
yeah.
So then
Instead
you
of,
are boom, boom, boom,
yeah,
carrying you out of the scene. Yeah.
yeah. Instead of what might I be able to do to not only my voice, but encourage other voices to come into the room so that we get all the puzzle pieces out on the table. So we don't want to be in that state either. So some of the cues are we're just staring into space. We're slumped in our chair, uh,
Mm.
breathing at the top of our chest, just no deep breaths. Our thinking gets foggy. We're feeling numb. And we basically disconnect from humanity. We're disconnecting from the gathering. We're done. We're thinking about everything else. Our mind wanders, but we've basically we're either totally disengaged, or I want to get this meeting over. I'm going to go along to get along, and we're just not being our authentic self. And what are the implications? We're disengaged, disempowered, and it's hard for us to access motivation, and we're also our self-image is being beat down a little bit.
It's when you say this, like going to one extreme, the hyper, going to the other extreme, the hypo, it reminds me of what if a Buddha would say, find the middle way, and navigate the middle way, going a little into one side, going a little towards the other, but try to always get the middle path,
Yeah.
the middle.
Or as the Stoics and Ryan Holiday, the author, would say, the obstacle is the way. Okay, this is an obstacle. How can I turn that boulder, what's perceived as a boulder right now, into a stepping stone to where we want to get? So the
Exactly.
obstacle is the way. And so when we're on the upside, we need to calm down. So that's where I think the breath really works well, and just being more relaxed. I personally find it easier, and I'll be curious what you think. If I catch myself in that while I'm done state, I think it's easier to get back into flow with sitting up. We can just start right away. Feet on. Okay, this is enough of this. Feet on the floor. Sit back, shoulders up, head up, and now I think the eyes play a great role to get locked back in. The eye. Okay, I'm gonna follow the bouncing ball. Like the old music thing, the sing-alongs. Follow the bouncing ball. Follow the table tennis ball. I'm gonna follow the voice in the room wherever it is, and I'm gonna make a game out of it. Look how Polly just leaned in. What she's saying
What's
with her
going
face,
on?
with her emotions, with her state. And is it consistent with that? But I think the eyes have it when you're in this. Okay, I'm just giving up. Okay, let's get re-engaged. I'm gonna lock in. Gonna get re-engaged in this, and one way to do that is the eye. Just focus. Where focus goes, energy flows, and just follow the words in the room, and really make that eye
Hmm.
contact. So those are some ideas,
Bring
Polly.
curiosity again.
Bring curiosity. Ask the
Yeah.
extra question.
Yes.
Lead without permission.
And as I said, be authentic.
Mhm.
Bring yourself back to being authentic and really asking questions. We had an episode talking about how important it is to ask questions. Maybe you don't have to say all you think, but you can bring a question to incite curiosity
Mhm. Yeah,
into the theme.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the common denominator, I think, is your word awareness on either side of that. We talked about where we wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
engaged, present, all of those things about when the resources are greater than or equal to demands. That's what we're striving for, but we can catch yourself on either side. So that's the new idea we're bringing in is, hey, you can be on either side of that range of emotions. And when the hyper overactive, you want to fight or run, escape right away. Well, now we need to calm, let's use the word calm ourselves down, but our presence needs to come back into the room from a highly aware state that's being
Perfect.
reactive into one where we're actively listening again and we're being curious. And on the other side of that, go ahead, you have a thought?
Yes, that when we talking about it, it we needed to know ourselves, and we needed to really look in front of the mirror and understand how we start going into reactivity, either going hyper or going hypo. So that, like, always working in awareness, if it bringing to the prefrontal cortex, like, okay, what is going on, what is happening? And at the moment we feel the change, we can lean in, we can take a deep breath, we can change physiology, we can ask different questions. But it really is about knowing ourselves. And I remember an activity once a professor did in class. He was a philosophy professor. He was like, do you think you know yourself well? And everybody in class was, do you think you, oh, I'm asking for you, Steve, do you think you know yourself well?
Uh, the Steve of today, I answer yes. The Steve of 10 years ago, I would say the answer would have been yes, but it would not have been it would not have been true.
Everybody in class answered that. And then he was like, okay, take a look at your hand, at the palm of your hand. Get a pen, face the palm down, and now draw the lines in your hand. I was like, okay, I know I have quite of an M-shaped line, but how do they cross? How do they meet? It's like, I don't know. And then he was like, that's the point. We think we know, but we needed to keep on learning more and learning more about ourselves.
Thank you for sharing that because know thyself. I mean,
Exactly.
that's a two-word quote that goes back to the ancient philosophers is know
Yeah.
thyself.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
So when we can understand what goes in our body, how we start reacting, bring yourself back. After you can go and you mentioned the bullseye target. After you can go play in some rage room, smash room. But for the moment, be there, be present. I love this conversation, Steve, and how we
mm,
can be either in one way or on the other.
yeah. And in some ways, this gets back to state. We've got state, skills, and strategy.
Mm-hmm.
My teachers have taught me that state has to come first. You've got to put yourself in that state, and we can do it. We can do it, but it takes self-awareness. And I think the
Exactly.
takeaway for today's lesson is maybe one more Jedi idea is that not only know when you're in reactivity, but now have the ability to say, well, which side am I above the line or below the line? So do I need to
True.
increase my energy using the eyes habit, or do I need to bring myself down to get back engaged, which is a few deep breaths? But either way, we're changing our state.
Keep your eye on the
Uh,
ball. I like that one.
keep your eye on the ball being the conversation, the voice in the room, the
Yes.
topic at hand.
Bring
And that's a
awareness, keep your eye on the ball, and keep on being authentic. Know
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Ah, that's a
yeah.
great Jedi activity for our listeners, for them to
Yes,
practice.
and I enjoyed seeing that for the first time maybe a month ago when we really that was brought into our community that there's two sides of the same coin, and that's what we were inspired to share with our listeners today. We
Yeah.
hope you found some of those points helpful. And Polly, did you have any clothing
No,
thoughts or an exercise or?
I am good where we are, and let's let what we can leave to our listeners here, the ones who have been following us, is be aware of who you are, know thyself, and practice. It's a constant practice. The more we learn about ourselves, the more we have to learn. It's a never ending part. And have the tools to bring yourself back.
Yeah. And let's just end maybe with what we're aiming for. So the inner voice we're aiming for when we're in that zone, that middle zone, is I am safe, I have the resources, and I can create, connect, and contribute to this gathering. And the impact is we're able to reflect, learn, connect, innovate, and lead. And we're on the creative side of the equation. So let's aim for that. And we've talked about some ideas when we catch ourselves on above the line or below the line or in the hyper or hypo
Or hypo. Yeah. Awesome.
stage.
High
So
five,
very
Steve.
good. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Well,
go.
as always,
So
Polly,
good.
it was fun to explore this and share one of the conversations this is really just a deeper dive on the conversations we've had since that training that we thought would be helpful to bring to our listeners. So with
Yes.
that, this has been another episode of Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life. And I'm Steve.
And I'm Polly. And I love your
And,
sentence.
and
There you
make
go.
it a great day.
Yes. Thank you for
Okay.
saying that, Steve. See
Okay.
you.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us in this honest and reflective conversation. If something resonated with you, take a pause, write it down, or share it with someone close. We'd love to know what stood out for you today. What question are you carrying forward? And what's one small step you were inspired to take after listening to us? Remember to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. Leave us a rating or a review and share these with someone who might appreciate it. Until next time, keep showing up with intention, curiosity, and heart. Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life is produced by me, Polly Bellin Wilson, with music by freetouse.com.